So everything is ready, our high poly, our low poly, our UVs, but there's still a few more things I want to do before we even export into Substance Painter, and this is just going to make sure that we get the cleanest possible bakes. So what we would do in the past is something called exploding our meshes. And without getting technical into how normal maps work, basically what we would do is we would separate each individual piece and we would move it far away from anything else. So when the normal map is baking, the bakes or there's some rays that are cast, they won't interfere with each other, because if the pieces were too close to each other, maybe this handle would actually appear on this face or in the texture of this face, and it would look really weird. So thankfully we don't have to explode our meshes anymore. Let me actually just reset my file. All we have to do now is just name things appropriately, and that is enough. So let's actually start doing that. Let's start by cleaning our scene. So I'm gonna open the outliner, and this layer doesn't even have anything anymore, so let me just delete it. I'm just gonna combine everything and apply a Lambert material. Okay, so this is the one mesh we have now. Everything else, it should be empty. So let me just delete all of this. I forgot what there is no hotkey to ungroup actually, so you need to go into edit and group. Okay, so our scene is clean, we have nothing else. If you use this, I don't think you should have any extra materials or anything. So now let's just start splitting pieces apart. Let's rename this first as, let's see, middle. How do you spell middle? Middle low. So this is going to refer to this piece right here. Now let's separate this piece. Control Shift E, rename it, I don't know, door low. And let's do the same thing with this piece. Let's extract it and rename it to, actually these two can be the same piece. It should just be fine. So let's combine them and door low. And we have to do this with most of our pieces. I'm gonna do all of the handles separately. And I don't really think we have to worry about the back ones, because the back ones are just copies of the front ones in our texture, but still, I'm just gonna separate all of them anyway and call them latch tube low. And everything that we rename separately is going to bake on its own, and it's not going to interfere with the rest of the mesh. So let's just keep doing that with this. Control Shift E, latch something, latch lock, I don't know, the name doesn't really matter. The point is that we want them to match in our high poly and low, and right now we're just on the low. Latch lock low. We can actually just rename it piece 1, piece 2, doesn't really matter. But just so I know exactly which piece is which, I'm trying to use somewhat obvious names, but I don't really know what to call these. Control Shift E, and let's call this latch tiny low. There we go. And now we're missing these right here. So all of these, we don't want them to interfere with each other or with the rest. And they're far apart enough from each other that we can just keep these as a single piece. So Control Shift E, these are now a single piece. And handle, I don't know, handle, oh, why am I having such a hard time with this? Long, let's just call it long. Handle long. And then, oh wait, I forgot the back, didn't I? Oops, I forgot the back. Extract these and combine these two. What are they called? handle long. You can think of a better name, I can't really. And now these piece, handle bar low. And we're missing just a few more. We're almost done, bear with me. Handle, oh, I should have called it grip instead of bar. That would have been better. Handle top low. Yeah, let's rename these to be grip. Oh, and these can be the bars. Ooh. Yeah, like that's not confusing at all. And what else am I missing? Oh yeah, these. I'm just going to select this whole thing and then invert my selection. So I should only get, oh, there's something in there. There's a plane. We'll get rid of that after. So extract this, and these are going to be called random, oh no wait, detail low. And of course, get rid of this face. And there it is. All we have to do now is just export this whole thing as a single mesh, and we will get separate objects in Substance Painter. Oh, by the way, because I deleted that plane after making my UVs, I now have a little gap where that plane used to be. So make sure you check you don't have any extra geometry before you even start UVing, because I mean, I don't have to remake this, but I'm definitely going to. So I'm just going to do this really quickly. This is actually very easy. I'm just going to delete this face because I don't need it right now. And same thing with these. These are our mirror UVs. Whoops. Delete those. And I'm just going to have to remake all of those. Holy. Whoa. Okay. There we go. Flawless recovery. Same thing with these. So I have to redo this all again because I didn't realize that there was some extra geometry. But we're going to do that so fast. So check this out. We select this. Actually, we select everything. We select all of that. Wait a minute. Which pieces are these? Oh, I didn't delete those. Whoops. Again, these are basically duplicates of the front pieces. Okay, so these are all the pieces with unique UVs. So again, all I'm gonna do is pretty much just layout. Let's see, where's layout? And our UVs barely changed, but I did not want that gap right there. So again, I'm going to select all of them because some of these are bleeding outside. Or what I could do is, yeah, I definitely want to scale them down a little bit. Just a little bit. So all I have to do now is, I'm going to duplicate and rotate this piece. I'm not going to mirror it because if I mirror it, any text I add here is going to be backwards on the other side. So instead of mirror, I'm going to duplicate and then rotate. And then I'm going to offset the UVs into the next quadrant. Oh, I have to select them. And like I said before, these aren't reversed, but I still want to just move them just to be a little bit more organized. Perfect. So same thing with these. Can I do all of these at the same time? Control duplicate, or Control D, and then rotate them. And then select all of their faces and move them over. And then same thing with these. Can I do these all at once? Control D, rotate, select all of the faces and move them over. I feel like I'm missing something. Oh yeah, these. So these are pretty easy. Shift X, Shift Z. I'm just gonna select the flipped ones only. Wait a minute, which are these? Okay, I'm just gonna select all of these because these are the ones that are gonna be copied onto all of the other ones, and I don't even have to flip these again. Remember, all we have to do is just move them one quadrant over. We don't care that these are still reversed. And I think that fixed everything, so as far as I can tell, we are good. That's all we have to do. Okay, moving on. Finally, just make sure this whole set of meshes has a single material, so I'm just going to assign a Lambert, and you can rename it whatever you want. Actually, let me rename it over here. Instead of Lambert 1, we need to add a new Lambert for that. Okay, assign favorite Lambert, and now we can rename this one. I'm going to call this create material, I guess. That's good enough. And finally, just make sure your entire mesh is selected, and then go to File, Export Selection, and we're going to use FBX because I want to use this triangulate option. And remember that you always want to triangulate when you export, or before you export, whatever is your preference. So I'm going to use this option right here, and these settings are fine. Smooth mesh refers to subdivision preview in Maya, so you can actually export that. Basically, you do this, and you can export your subdivision preview. It's pretty cool, but we're not going to use it. And it's really strange because if this is on, it will not export your smooth preview, and if it's off, it will try to export it. It's really weird. I don't know why it's backwards. The point is, because we're not even using it, we don't have to worry about it. So I'm just going to rename this create low, I guess, export. And it's telling us that it can't both triangulate and export our smooth preview, but we're not even using smooth preview, so it makes no difference. We can discard this warning. And that is our low poly. Now there's a few things we have to do with our high poly. So this is my high poly file, and we don't actually have to do much. Most of what we have to do is just basically clean up our mesh the exact same way. But instead of combining everything, I think I'm just going to leave them separate and like clean them up like this. So let me just select all of these groups, which I don't need anymore. Go to Edit, Ungroup. I set Ungroup and everything else still shows up. You know what? I'm just going to combine everything. No objects matches name. Oh, I think it's getting confused with my, what do you call it? My instances. Let me just select all of my instances. Modify, convert instance to object. There we go. So these don't have UVs. We can mirror them and we'll be fine. We don't have to worry about reversed UVs or anything. I think those are our only instances, right? Wait a minute. We don't need these to be grouped anymore, so I'm just going to move them outside. All these groups are empty, so I can just delete them. There's an option to delete empty groups and transforms and something like that. It cleans up your Maya scene, but we don't really need to go that far. So what was this called? I forget. This was our... I can't believe I forgot. At least I have a file open over here. Where is it? Oh, it's called the middle low. Okay. So this is going to be called middle high. And this is going to be called... Let me check again. You know what? I'm just going to move this over here so I can read and rename them at the same time. Okay, I call them door. Door high. And you need to make sure the names match. But the prefixes are the ones you actually want to rename as low and high. But the names need to match exactly. Let's see, what was this piece called? This was called handle top. This is handle bars high. Handle grip. Basically all the same names, just change low for high. Oh, and these we actually do need to separate. So let's separate these and recombine them. Oops, wrong one. These are called latch lock. Almost done. We need to do one more thing after renaming them, so don't just skip this video. There's one more thing we have to do. And this is latch tube. These names though. Latch tiny. That really is the best I could come up with. And we're missing some pieces. What do I call these? Detail, I think. Okay. Detail. I think that is it. We don't actually have to organize things with middle mouse here the same way that they are in the high poly. The name is enough. And I just realized I made a mistake in this name. It's not grips, it is grip, singular. This is wrong as well. Lock. Latch tube, latch tiny. Okay, if something's not working, then we just messed up the names. I like how sometimes I use plural, handlebars, and sometimes I used singular, grip. Whatever. This should work just fine. Oh yeah, final thing. We are going to assign every individual piece its own material, but we can do this really easily with this little button right here. So if we just click on that, each separate object is going to have its own material assigned. And they're actually coming out pretty similarly because by default, I have a color bias. So I'm just going to set this to 0. And now you should get much more different colors. And you can just keep clicking on it until you get something you like. You don't actually have to be that different. As long as they're different, which they will be, because there's no way you'll get the same colors. This is nice, I think. The point is that we're going to use these different material colors as masks in Substance Painter. And again, the color doesn't matter as long as they are at least a little bit different. So these kind of look the same as these, but it doesn't really matter. But just for the sake of clarity, I'm just going to keep clicking. Okay, this is now our high poly. And to export it, let me just make sure there's nothing inside. Okay, yep, forgot about this piece. We never deleted that cylinder in our what do you call it? Our high poly. And it actually doesn't matter because there's nothing for it to bake to, but let's get rid of it anyway. Okay, this is it. Let's select it. File, export selection, and oh wait, yeah, subdivide. Press the 3 key. So this is what it looks like without subdivision preview, and then with. So make sure you press the 3 key, and then go to File, Export Selection. And we do not want to triangulate this one. And this is the object we want to take note of if we want to export our subdivision preview. If we want to export our subd preview, this has to be turned off. I know it makes no sense and it's backwards, but that's the way it works. If you turn this on, we will not be able to export our subd preview. So make sure it is off. I really don't know why it's backwards. It's so counterintuitive. So I'm just gonna go to my meshes and set this to be create high and export. And it's a lot of geometry, so it's gonna take a while. This plugin will tessellate meshes, so you see it actually is exporting our our smooth preview now. So that's exactly what we wanted. And finally, we can move on to Substance Painter.